Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Monday. We are here to recap, episode week 9 of the NFL, where a lot happened yesterday. It was a crazy day, a lot of upsets, a lot to take out of this week, quite frankly, and to look forward to what's on the horizon and where do these teams go. And before we dive into that, a lot happening this week on the podcast. Obviously, weird week with Remembrance Day on Thursday, but obviously it's a very important day to recognize and celebrate. So we'll be doing a couple of podcasts that day. But this week, I'll be doing my Breaking Bad podcast. We'll return tomorrow night with Seamus. We'll talk about episodes 1 and 2 of season 5. Also, I'll be podcasting Thursday with my good buddy Casey Ward. We'll talk about everything NHL, break it down, what we've seen so far this season, dive into that. And then Friday, Matt Wright will return to the pod, been off for a little bit. He'll preview week 10 of the NFL with me on Friday afternoon. So that's what's coming this week. A lot happening here on the podcast. And of course, we'll go through everything throughout the week. Likely to do 2 podcasts tomorrow just because it's a little busy. Today is a busy day for me. So my 2 podcasts tomorrow, and we'll keep going throughout the week. We'll chug through the podcast as we get through a lot of content coming. Obviously baseball is over, but hockey's in full swing. The NBA is going. We got the NFL, of course. So lots happening as we head into the middle of November here this week. But yesterday, week 9 of the NFL. Every week, there's a game that I try to find, okay, where's the upset? Because there's always one game a week where it's just a squirrely game where you go, that team's going to win. They shouldn't, but they're going to. Like a week ago, I never bet, but I did last week because I just had a feeling and I won. But I thought that the New York Jets would beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I have no rhyme or reason, but I just looked at that game. I said, Mike White's making his first start. Jets are going to find a way to win this game. Plus, that's a game Cincinnati just finds a way to lose, right? And I was right. And I came into this week thinking, where's that game this week? You see Broncos, Cowboys. And I said, no, the Cowboys are too good. I saw Patriots, Panthers. I said, no, the Panthers aren't going to beat the Patriots. Browns, Bengals. I thought the Browns would win because I have a lot of faith in the Cleveland Browns. I just bet against the Bengals. So I'm searching and searching. Giants, Vegas was one that came up, and I'm like, that maybe could happen. I thought the Falcons would beat the Saints. I thought the Chiefs would win. I didn't think the Cardinals would win. But to see a game, Buffalo, Jacksonville, I didn't see this one coming. And if I had to predict the score of a Jacksonville win over the Buffalo Bills, it sure as hell would not have been 9-6. The Buffalo Bills, with Josh Allen at quarterback, Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary, and that high-powered offense, could only put up 6 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars? Really? I never would have made that bet. However, I never would have bet that the Denver Broncos would crush the how about them Cowgirls yesterday. Just take their soul out of their body. I didn't have that one. It was a crazy day. The Arizona Cardinals, after 9 weeks in the NFL, have the best record in football. They lose to Green Bay. I'm thinking even with Kyler Murray, San Francisco's at home. Arizona's banged up. They'll win. 49ers are going to win this game. no Kyler Murray, no DeAndre Hopkins, and the Arizona Cardinals go into the Bay Area and lay a beating on the San Francisco 49ers. Usually divisional games are close, even when teams are bad. One team's really good and one's bad. This was Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy. The former Texas Longhorn. The former Cleveland Brown quarterback. New York Giant. Bounced around as a backup quarterback. Is the backup in Arizona, and he wins on the road to improve the Arizona Cardinals to 8-1, beating San Francisco both times this season, beating the Tennessee Titans, who only have 2 losses, beating the Los Angeles Rams, who only have 2 losses. Only losses to Green Bay, and if A.J. Green doesn't forget how to run a route, they win that game too. So, and then I look around and I'm just like, where do I start here? My big question, I'm going to try to get to every game because every game had some interest. But my big picture question after yesterday is, who the hell is any good in the AFC? Let's go over this. The Buffalo Bills lose to Jacksonville, like I already mentioned. But the Buffalo Bills are a really good team. At least I thought they were. No, there's a game where you just don't play your best or a team can outscore you, your defense falls. But to score 6 points, to not put up a touchdown in Jacksonville against Urban Meyer, Josh Allen looked like year one Josh Allen yesterday. 2 really bad interceptions, making bad decisions with the football. Just stupid play. Now, I'm sure a Buffalo Bills fan who's licking their wounds today will say, at least our defense showed up. Well, way to go. You stopped Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville's only win prior to this one was against the Dolphins, who stink. So Buffalo, you can't score 10 points on the road against Jacksonville, who had the number 1 pick in the draft last year, who didn't have James Robinson, their starting running back. Okay. Las Vegas entered the day first in the NFC West. You lose to the Giants. The Giants. Oh, man. This is the thing with Vegas. The second you have any faith in that team, they make you pay for it. I like Derek Carr. I think he's a good quarterback. And quite frankly, I kind of want to see him succeed just because I think he's a good dude. But you go and play the Giants? And I get they've been through a lot. John Gruden's gone. Henry Ruggs III got in the accident. He's going to jail. They just had to cut their 2020 first-round pick today, Arnett, the corner, because he was found with videos surfacing of him making death threats to people with a firearm. They've been through a lot. But I don't care. You still have Darren Waller. You still have Josh Jacobs. You still have a pretty damn good defense. Mad Max Crosby on that D-line. Hunter Renfrow balling out. You can't beat the Giants? Danny Nichols? Danny Turnover? I mean, come on. Again, you look at this game. Danny Dimes didn't turn the ball over. What did he do all day? Dink and dunk. He threw 20 passes for $110. $110. I could throw $110 on my couch, and you lost to that guy. You let Devontae Booker, who's been cut by 3 different teams, run for 100 yards on your ass. Ugly. 16 points in the Meadowlands. You couldn't put up more than that. It's the Giants. Joe Judge. Let's see what's next in the AFC of who's any good. The game. Well, this is where we get interesting. I'm gonna get to the Bengals in a minute. Kansas City Chiefs played Green Bay yesterday at Arrowhead. You win the game against Jordan Love, who looked like he was making his first start. Honestly, I can't read into if this guy's going to be any good or not. I think it's really unfair to say if this guy's going to be an NFL quarterback long term, because we've seen, other than Mac Jones, what rookie's been really that good this season? Quite frankly, not that many. Again, I like Justin Fields, but he has his pros and cons, and I have to point out both. I love his athleticism. I don't think the team does enough to use him. We'll see him tonight on Monday Night Football. Run pass option, bootlegs, design QB runs. I don't think we see enough of that, but there's times he holds the ball too long. He just does, and they make him pay for it. So he has his problems, no doubt. Trevor Lawrence, very athletic. I think I don't like how much he runs the football. He's big, but he likes to take hits, which is a problem down the line. Got a big arm, but can sometimes, really throw to a guy who's in triple coverage when he has an open guy 15 yards down the field. He's taken strides, but you get my point. Jordan Love was not – I was interested in watching the game yesterday, even without Aaron Rodgers, just to see what Jordan Love looked like. But I thought after the game, Noah, that was stupid of you, because this game was more about the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course. Green Bay 7-2. They'll be okay, I think. Kansas City at home, playing Green Bay. No Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love first start. Hardly any practices with his wide receiver core. Okay. No David Bakhtiari line. No Preston Smith. No Jair Alexander on the back end. So Green Bay's a little hobbled. Say that. The Chiefs scored 13 points yesterday. 13. I can only define Patrick Mahomes' play right now as hapless. Hapless. He looks, I can't even say he looks like a shell of himself, because I don't know who that is. I don't recognize that quarterback. Like, I can't make a throw downfield. He's indecisive. He should have been picked 2 or 3 times yesterday. Just pure luck that he wasn't. And drive after drive after drive. The Chiefs did nothing. They kept Green Bay in this game. Green Bay lost by 6. The only reason this game wasn't tied was because Mason Crosby missed a field goal and one was blocked. Special teams cost Green Bay the game yesterday. Did Jordan Love play good? Not at all. But just to put this into context, he had more passing yards yesterday than Patrick Mahomes. And he threw 3 less balls. Mahomes had an average yesterday of 4 yards a pass. That does not sound like Patrick Mahomes. It's honestly a sad state of affairs for me to watch Patrick Mahomes, because he can't do anything. He looks like Christian Ponder, who, if you don't know, used to play for the Vikings. He wasn't very good. And this is in season, but I don't think this can be rectified. How bad the Chiefs are. I really don't. Because their only hope is to win their division. But even you look at the Chiefs, there needs to be expectations that are more than just make the playoffs. They're a Super Bowl. I mean, I think internally they know it's Super Bowl or bust. Well, it would be a bigger deal if they made the playoffs to me than if they missed. Because, quite frankly, I think the Browns are better than the Chiefs. I think the Patriots are better than the Chiefs. I'm even starting to think the Denver Broncos are better than the Chiefs. The Chargers are better than the Chiefs. These are teams they're all fighting with for a wild card spot. I think Vegas, even with their loss yesterday, can win that division. Maybe the Chargers will, but I also think both teams will compete for a playoff spot. But I can't even say the Chiefs defense played well yesterday, because the past 2 weeks, you could say, well, the defense showed up. Well, they played against Danny Nichols. And I just talked about how much respect I have for Danny Nichols and Jordan Love, a rookie quarterback, making his first start on the road at Arrowhead. This Chiefs team just looks broken. Patrick Mahomes looks like a prize fighter that's taken one too many shots. And he's getting back in the ring and he's punch drunk. And the next time he gets in there, he's going to get knocked the fuck out. I don't see any creativity. I don't see a quarterback that can adapt. Yes, teams are playing 2-eye safety against you, but 2-eye safety was not introduced to the league yesterday. Andy Reid's been coaching for a hot minute. Can there be no changes? Can you not do something to rectify this problem? We haven't seen anything yet. And they got Vegas this Sunday. In Vegas on Sunday Night Football. This game could be, I think will be, season defining for both teams. You look, Vegas and the Chargers lead the division at 5-3, followed by Kansas City and Denver, who are both 5-4. If Vegas wins this game, it'll put them 2 clear of Kansas City. I don't think they're making that up. They're not beating anybody right now. They look like a terrible football club. And down the stretch, the Chiefs, they got the Cowboys. That's not an easy game, even at home. Then they have the Broncos. Broncos aren't world beaters, but they're not an easy out. They got the Raiders again. They got the Chargers. And then they finish with, as I'm looking through the games here, Chiefs, Steelers, Bengals, and Broncos. They don't have an easy schedule down the stretch. Other teams have an easier schedule to get to the playoffs. It's not going to be that easy. So I'm worried for the Chiefs. When it comes to Green Bay, now they caught a break yesterday with the Rams losing, obviously the Bucs losing last week. So teams dropped with them to 2 losses in the NFC. And Dallas losing as well obviously helped them. But they need Aaron Rodgers back, clearly. I think their defense has shown over the last couple of weeks that they can play. Now they're coming out hard to, playing hard every week, Kenny Clark. And, that D-line is really good. And they're playing extremely well. So I like that. Again, I still worry about Aaron. Randall Cobb is a good red zone threat, but I worry about, can he have a secondary target that can really make an impact? But if this Green Bay team wants to do anything and be any kind of threat to get back to an NFC Championship game, Aaron Rodgers needs to be 100% on the field. And we don't know if he's going to be suspended yet. I highly doubt it because it's the NFL. And I think the NFL does not want to make it a divisive decision here. And quite frankly, that's what it would be. Suspending a guy over COVID protocol, where I think this is fair to say probably half the NFL audience is anti-vaccine, anti-government telling you what to do, so to speak. Maybe I'm a little high on that figure, but I do think a lot of people, we're talking about a lot of Republicans here. Just being honest. So I don't think he'll be suspended. You might see him a fine levied towards Green Bay, but I do think we'll see Aaron Rodgers play against the Seahawks next Sunday. And just now, as I'm on the podcast, it was announced that Russell Wilson has been cleared to return to football activities, and he'll likely start this Sunday for the Seattle Seahawks as they try to make a push to make the playoffs here late in the season, coming off their bye week. So big game for both teams, of course. Seattle losing, I think they dropped to 3-6. So that would kill their season basically. But Green Bay also, you don't want to go to 7-3 in the NFC because your odds of getting to a possible bye are, shrinking by the week here. So we'll talk about that this week, but big problems in Kansas City, and I don't see them getting fixed this season. So who's good in the AFC? Bengals have lost 2 in a row to the Jets and the Browns. And, I said this from week 1, and it sounds so counterintuitive. However, I truly think the Cleveland Browns are better with Odell Beckham Jr. elsewhere. I don't care where it is. He might go to Seattle. Maybe he goes to Green Bay. Maybe he goes out west. But to me, Baker Mayfield Jr. III is a better quarterback when Odell is not in the field. Odell is not washed up. He might go to Seattle and have a lot of success with Russell Wilson. I wouldn't, vote that. I don't think that's a zero-sum possibility. But I just think Baker Mayfield's better when there is not an alpha, when there isn't a diva, so to speak, to throw the ball to. And what happened this weekend? The Cleveland Browns returned to being the Cleveland Browns. They ran their offense with success. Baker threw the ball 21 times, but he completed 14 of them, 218, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. What did they do? Nick Chubb ran the ball 14 times. Not that many, but he ran for $137 and 2 scores. Cincinnati controlled the clock for the majority of the game, but Cleveland struck quick. What do we see? Mayfield with a 60-yard touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones with a strike to Njoku. He made plays when they were there. Nick Chubb made plays. The bootleg game, play action, run pass option. This offense was flowing. This is how the Cleveland Browns win football games. You have that offense chugging. You have the run game going. And to me, Baker is never going to be a top 5 to 10 quarterback. But with a really good offensive line, with a great running back, and they normally have 2 with Kareem Hunt, you have versatility. You have the ability to run the ball effectively, to block, and then you have your run pass option where you can take a deep shot to Peoples-Jones out of Michigan. You got Jarvis Landry who can run nice curl underneath routes, quick slants. And then you also got your bootleg game where your tight ends can run tight end screens, which they love to do. Hit screens out to the outside to Austin Hooper and Njoku. And it works. And, they get a big win. Big win in Cincinnati where they really beat them down. And, Cincinnati did not have a good day. Joe Burrow threw 40 passes, but had 2 interceptions. He didn't have his best day as a pro. We saw, Denzel Ward return a touchdown, return a pick, 99 yards for a score. And Cleveland just had everything yesterday. And Cincinnati's now 5-4. They're coming back down to earth. I don't think they're that good of a football team. And it just seems to kind of show itself more and more throughout the weeks. Obviously, they're 5-4. Cincinnati's 5-4. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 4-3. They'll look to improve the record tonight on Monday Night Football. And you also got the Ravens, who are at the top of that division. But, it's an interesting logjam there. The interesting thing for the Browns is I think they can get back to a trajectory where they can make the playoffs. They have a tough schedule. They play Baltimore twice. They need to win one of those games. I think they have the capability to do it. They lost to the Steelers the first time. They need to win that second time. I think they can. But what's interesting about next week's game, is the Browns are going to play the New England Patriots. And the Patriots win again yesterday. They were 1-3. It looked looked terrible for them. But they just have something about them. And, there's some great running backs in the league. Jonathan Taylor is elite in Indy. Obviously, Derrick Henry is a beast. But there's a guy out of the University of Oklahoma for the Patriots who will be an X factor the rest of the year. And I think he'll start to get even more touches as we go on here. And that's Ramondre Stevenson. This guy is a thicker running back, but he's also versatile. He can make plays in the pass game and break them off for big chunk plays. Yesterday, we saw that from Mac Jones, where he throws yesterday only for $139, which is not great by those standards. But Stevenson had 41, a reception for 41 yards. He broke one off, went long. He also ran the ball 10 times for 62 yards. But what do the Patriots have going right now? Their defense is really playing well. Matt Judon has been an excellent signing for this team. J.C. Jackson, who was led the NFL in picks last year, had a pick 6 yesterday. Sam Darnold had a brutal day with 3 interceptions. This team gets after the football. They're quick. They pounce on you. And both these teams are 5-4. And I think both teams are really trending towards two of the best teams in the AFC. And the crazy thing is, likely one of these teams will miss the playoffs. Because it is interesting now, the Patriots are only a game back of the Bills. They play them, I believe, twice down the stretch here towards the end of the year. So both teams, they'll get to play their rivals. The Patriots got the Falcons in a couple weeks. They play the Titans. So not an easy schedule for them. Then they get their bye week in week 13. Oh, no, they play the Bills on Monday Night Football. Then they get their bye week 14. So a late bye for the Patriots. They got the Colts at the Colts for the end of the year. You've got the Bills twice in the final 4 weeks for the Patriots. They got the Jags, which should be an easy one. Then they finish at the Dolphins. So I really, Mac Jones is not going to be that elite quarterback this year, but he's not going to lose you many games. And what I like is that they got Damian Harris, they got Ramondre Stevenson. Brandon Bolden's even made a resurgence. He's starting to get involved in the run and pass game. Jacoby Myers has emerged as a really great player. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, they're using these guys, and they have an elite defense. I mean, the teams that are winning, what do they do well? They play defense. Talk about who are the best teams in the AFC. Tennessee last night does not have Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill only throws for $143, but they beat the LA Rams in Los Angeles. Why? Because that defense is smash mouth in your face, and they're going to make you earn it. That's just what they do. Harold Landry III, Jeffrey Simmons, Kevin Byard. These guys just make it difficult for you to win at the line of scrimmage. They get in your face. They get in your quarterbacks. They make it hell. And that's the Patriots have the same identity. The Cleveland Browns had the potential to do the same thing. Myles Garrett leads the NFL in sacks with 12. He's elite. If their defense can pull it together, we saw it yesterday. Denzel Ward is a first-round pick on the back end who's great. Grant Delpit, we're still looking to see what he's got at safety. He needs to pull it together. John Johnson III. And they made some great additions to this team. And I say this week after week, but I mean it to my core. The teams that really, truly have the best chance of win, and the AFC is so wide open. The best teams in the AFC are going to be teams that are led by defense first. Because he might say, well, Mac Jones is an elite quarterback. Totally agree. Ryan Tannehill, I think, is better than most people think, including the pundits. But is he Tom Brady? No. Is he Mahomes? He's playing better than Mahomes right now. Is he Lamar? No. But he can make plays. But does it help him to have a short field? You bet. I mean, last night, the Tennessee defense basically scores 14 points. They get an interception off Stafford where he's about to take a safety. He throws a pick. One play later, they're at the 4-yard line. They score a touchdown. The next drive, Kevin Byard, after Jeffrey Simmons gets right in his face, intercepts Stafford, pick 6 to the house. The game was basically over because the next Tennessee offensive drive, they score a touchdown. It's 21-3, curtains. So the Baker Mayfield, same thing. He's not an elite quarterback, but Tennessee and Cleveland both had a defensive touchdown yesterday. Oh, and the Patriots. So they all did. So that's a huge part of winning football is, can your defense score you some points? Can they give you a short field? That's exactly what you want. And going through all of this, do I think Vegas is that good? No. Do I think Buffalo is? I have more faith in Buffalo to rebound. But they need to show something next week. They were lifeless yesterday. And they got the Jets. That doesn't prove anything. But they got the Colts in a couple weeks. That's a game where the Colts are playing good football. You want to see what they can do. The Bengals, I don't have faith in the Bengals to be a factor. I believe they head into their bye week, which they do. They come out of that bye playing the Raiders. That's a massive game for both teams, obviously. Then they got the Steelers at home. That's not an easy game. Then they got the Chargers at home. That's not an easy game. They welcome the 49ers. Then they have they're at the Broncos. The Broncos aren't a great team, but they're not an easy team to play by any means. Then they host the Ravens. They play the Chiefs, and they finish with the Browns. They don't have an easy schedule either down the stretch. And so I don't have any faith in the Bengals. I said the Browns could make the Super Bowl. I have my doubts about that now, but I'm going to die on the sword. I'm going to stick with Cleveland as a team that I have faith in, even though for weeks I've been saying this team just keeps letting me down. But then that brings us to the Denver Broncos. This is more about the Dallas Cowboys. But so in the AFC, I think the Patriots are a good team. Of course, the Ravens are a good team because they have Lamar Jackson. And every week on Get Up, you'll hear, that's a show on the mothership, Dan Orlovsky, who I actually like. I think he's a good NFL analyst, but he likes to make his MVP pick every week. And I'm not a big fan of the MVP, that whole talk this early, but I'll do it today just for fun. Lamar Jackson's the MVP of the league. He's already won one. To me, if the season ended right now, he's a 2-time MVP. He's come back from 14-point deficits 3 times this year. Guy can't throw. He ran 20 times yesterday. That scares the hell out of me. It's a good stat and also a bad stat because one of those could be a career ender. But what did he do? 266 passing, 3 touchdowns, ran the ball for $120. And, I like this team. Le'Veon Bell gets a rushing touchdown. Devontae Freeman had a big day. Like, Baltimore is legit. Tennessee is 7-2. Tied for the best record in the AFC. I mean, they're legit. For sure, Tennessee is legit. They just continue to prove, even without Derrick Henry, they get a huge win. They get the Saints next week. We'll see what happens there. But like I said, that brings us to Dallas and Denver. It's another game that I thought coming in, Dallas is just such an elite team. They win a game with Cooper Rush as their backup. Maybe that should have been a sign to me with Dak coming back. They'd lose this game, but yesterday was just a rout. There was nothing. I watched that entire Dallas game. There was nothing that I liked about it from the Cowboys. Not a thing. Including coaching, which I'll get into in a second. But defense. What did we learn? Well, Trayvon Diggs the first couple weeks was the star of the NFL. Interception, week after week after week. Taking them to the house. Big play Trayvon. Still a good corner. What did the Denver Broncos prove yesterday? What did Teddy Bridgewater prove yesterday? Vic Fangio? They showed everybody that they're not afraid of Trayvon Diggs. Whether it was Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, anybody could have lined up against Trayvon Diggs and they would throw against him. The best corners, you don't throw the ball to him. Darrelle Revis rarely gets the ball thrown his way. Jalen Ramsey rarely gets the ball thrown his way because guess what? He intercepted one last night from Ryan Tannehill. That's just what happens when you have elite players at corner. Well, yesterday, a good young player was exposed because Teddy Bridgewater had zero fear of throwing towards Trayvon Diggs. He actually, I think, attacked him. Jerry Jeudy had 69 yards receiving. Tim Patrick had 4 receptions for 85. Hinton had 1 for 40. He just, Teddy didn't do anything spectacular, but he didn't turn the ball over, and he was efficient. But, so, Trayvon didn't have a good day. Also, the Dallas defense was atrocious in other areas. They gave up almost 200 yards rushing. 190 yards rushing yesterday. Williams ran for 111 on 17 carries. Melvin Gordon III ran for 80 yards on 21 carries. Teddy Bridgewater also ran in a touchdown. 2 rushing touchdowns yesterday for the Denver Broncos. It was a display of poor tackling. Denver winning at the line of scrimmage. That offensive line beating a defensive line where we saw great play from Randy Gregory. From Micah, Micah Parsons seemed like the only player that wanted to play yesterday on that defense. On offense, I don't know if I could name one. But it was just, I don't know what happened. Dallas looked like a team that could win the Super Bowl, and they still might. This could just be an aberration. They got the Falcons next week, who are actually in a playoff position right now, but they aren't exactly the best team in the world. But for Denver, who traded away Von Miller, who tried to trade Kyle Fuller, who kind of had a fire sale, started off the season 3-0, then they lose 4 straight. To go into Dallas and to get this win, they're 5-4. They're tied with the Chiefs, a game out of first in the AFC West. Now, do I think they'll win that division, make the playoffs? Probably not. But their defense still plays. They play hard. And they just physically won that game yesterday. Dallas wanted nothing to do with that game. I think they thought they were going to win the game easily. Now, before I get to the bad coaching, I'll get to Dak Prescott. Coming off injury, he looked terrible. He had a terrible game yesterday. That's all I can describe his game as terrible because he was inaccurate. He looked tentative. He looked nervous. And he just overthrew people time and time again. I mean, this game was 30-3 at one point. It was a nothing game. Dallas should have got skunked, but Denver just played prevent defense and they ended up scoring 16 points. It was not 14 points close. Denver won this game decidedly. And so Dak, terrible game. Ezekiel Elliott only had 10 carries for 51 yards. Tony Pollard only 4 carries for 11 yards. It was a disaster. CeeDee Lamb, 2 catches for 23. Amari Cooper, 2 catches for 37. That tells you everything you need to know. Dak Prescott threw for CeeDee Lamb, I don't know how many times down the field. He overthrew him by 4 or 5 yards. The Dallas Cowboys go 0 for 4 on 4th down. They go their first 2 drives. They go for it on 4th down, stuffed both times. I just think situational football was bad. It was just a colossal dumpster fire yesterday. So the 4th down decisions were stupid. They go 0 for 4 on them, which is just brutal. You're down 16-0 at the half at home. The secondary of Denver was so elite. Surtain, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. I mean, this team just balled out yesterday. But then I get to Mike McCarthy, and he's been my worry about the Cowboys all year. You're down 30-3 in the 4th quarter. Why is Dak Prescott still playing? Why is he in the game? Why did Cooper Rush not take a snap yesterday? What if Dak gets injured? He's just coming off an injury. He played terrible. Get him out of the game. This is not about pride. You got your ass kicked regardless. You lost by 2 touchdowns. Why is your franchise quarterback still in the game? Because guess what? It doesn't matter if you lost by 1 yesterday or you lost by 27. The sting is the same. You're 7-2. Or 6 and whatever they are, 6-2. Yeah, they've had their bye. But I don't get it. Mike McCarthy, take him out. Put Cooper Rush in the game. Just get out the clock. Why is Ezekiel Elliott still in the game? They didn't put CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper back on the field. He was throwing 2 touchdown passes to Turner, a backup wide receiver. Why the hell is Dak throwing them passes? It should have been Cooper Rush. Because guess what? If I'm Denver, I'm still sending pass rushers. Because if you're going to keep your quarterback in, well, guess what? I'm rushing you. And if I get my chance to hit you, guess what? I'm bleeping hitting you. It's just stupid. Why risk that? Like, do you want people to start saying the old Cowboys go-to line? What can go wrong will go wrong? Because since Jimmy Johnson was fired, that's basically been the Cowboys' mantra. It's what happens every other year. They get really excited and this team goes to shit. Now, Dak Prescott has had 1 bad game this year. This offensive line hasn't really had 1 bad game this year. Because against Tampa opening night, they really didn't play that bad. They lost by a last-second field goal to the reigning champions. That's not a bad loss. This is a bad loss. You're at home playing against Denver, who just traded away they're one of the best players in franchise history, who basically said we're giving up on this season. I don't know. And next week's game against the Falcons is so important for the Dallas Cowboys. Response is needed. What are you going to do to show people that you righted the ship, that you are getting better? I look at the same way as the Rams. The Rams lost to the Titans, or the first game without Derrick Henry. You can't lose that game. You go in there at home, you win that game. It's their second loss at home this year. Now, the Rams play the 49ers on Monday, so they have to wait longer. Falcons are at the Cowboys. That's got to be a win. Got to be a win. And I still think the Cowboys are a really good team, but yesterday was alarming that you lost that game, that you couldn't get it done. But I don't know. We'll see. But I still worry about Mike McCarthy making decisions. And one like that yesterday, the 4th downs, leaving Dak Prescott in far too long during the game. it makes you wonder, what the hell are you doing? And why is this guy the steward of the ship? Why is he the captain? It's going to end up like the fucking Titanic, where everybody's underneath ice, drowning in the freezing cold water. This team truly has the potential to win a Super Bowl. I believe that. And he's won a Super Bowl as a coach. I can't take that away from him. But I still worry because I look at him and say, you just continue to make idiotic decision after idiotic decision. And it's like, well, where's this coming from? So Dallas is completely in is going to have to rebound, and just a terrible loss. Another thing I really started to think about after 9 weeks is the future of this league. And what I mean by that is next season, who's going to be playing? How many teams are going to want new quarterbacks? And this is really interesting to think about because it's not a great year for college football and quarterbacks. I have certain guys I like to watch and listen to when it comes to scouting for the draft. But whether you hear the name Malik Willis or Sam Howell or Matt Corral, I don't think a guy's really shown himself to be an elite quarterback this year. So you say, okay, you might draft that guy because you're in desperate need, but is he going to be great long-term? I have my doubts. But you go through the NFL. We'll just go through games here. We'll just go through teams, and I'll say it. Dallas. Nope. Dak Prescott, they just re-signed him. I think he's a top 5 quarterback when he plays well. Terrible game yesterday. You can't take that away from him, but Dallas is stable at the position. Philadelphia. Philly lost yesterday to the Chargers on a last-second field goal. However, I thought it was one of Jalen Hurts' best games as a pro, and I mean that with every fiber of my being. He only threw for $162, but he ran for 62 yards on 10 carries. He gives everything to this offense. We finally saw him hook up with Devontae Smith, who had his first 100-yard receiving game of his career, the former Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama. I love seeing that. Dallas Goedert's a great tight end. Philly's got a lot to work on because Jordan Howard was playing running back for them yesterday. Boston Scott, they have a lot of holes in this roster. It's an old roster, but they do have 3 picks in the first round of this year's draft. So I do think we'll see the Eagles, they're going to be tempted to draft a quarterback. In my opinion, Jalen Hurts is the guy. I would build around him. I just like Jalen. I think he's made of the right stuff. And I think he's a guy that can go to another team and have success if Philly says, no, let's draft Matt Corral or, quarterback X. New York. Giants, absolutely. I think the Giants will be looking for a quarterback this offseason. They're not going to make the playoffs again. They're going to be under 500. If I had to make a prediction for the Giants, Joe Judge is fired. Dave Gettleman is fired. I don't know how he's lasted this long. Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator, is likely fired. So they can just get new people in there. And Daniel Jones is also gone. Yes, he was the 6th overall pick in the draft, but I look at Daniel Jones, and this year he's got 2,059 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 5. It's just not enough. It's just he's got games where he's got a great QBR. He had a 104.2 QBR yesterday, but I don't trust him enough in the big moments to deliver, and I think he'll be gone. Washington, absolutely. Washington will be in the quarterback market because who they have in the roster? Taylor Heineke, who, Washington's 2-6. They're underperforming. Their defense has stunk it up this year, but Heineke's not the answer long-term. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been injured since week 1, is likely going to retire. So that means you have likely 2 open spots, a starter and a backup that you need to replace on your roster. So that's 3 teams out of just this one division that will be in the quarterback market. NFC North. You'd normally say no with Green Bay, but is Aaron Rodgers coming back? Does he want to leave Green Bay after this season? Because if he does, guess what? You either believe in Jordan Love or you're in the quarterback market and you're shopping for a new investment. And hopefully, you got to hope that it's Jordan Love. But if it's not Jordan Love, then you're searching for something else, and Aaron Rodgers is gone, and who the hell knows where that goes. Minnesota. I believe Minnesota will be in the quarterback market because yesterday they're up by 14. The week prior, they played Cooper Rush. They lose both these games. They're 3-5, the Minnesota Vikings. They play the Chargers next weekend. Kirk Cousins he's got 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this year. That's all well and good, but he never wins the big game. In a big moment, he's going to throw an interception or he's going to fumble. Or they had the ball and they got to stop in overtime. He got the ball back, 3 and out. That's just Kirk Cousins for you. He doesn't close games. I mean, 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 103.4 QBR. They owe him a lot of money. But how long in Minnesota? Zimmer's likely going to be fired. He's been there 8 years, I believe. How long are you sticking with that? Chicago, they got Justin Fields. I think obviously they drafted him with the 11th pick. He'll be their quarterback next year. We'll see him play tonight Monday Night Football against Pittsburgh. So I think Chicago is stable there. Detroit, 0-8, worst team in the NFL. They're obviously going to be in the quarterback market. Jared Goff is 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this year. He's an okay, not great quarterback, and they haven't won a game with him as their starter in Detroit. So, if they have the first pick in the draft, maybe they trade down because it's not a quarterback draft and a team trades up to get Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon or Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. But I believe teams will inquire about, maybe Detroit can trade down, still stay in the top 5, and maybe they take a chance on Matt Corral or Malik Willis or, quarterback to be named later. So Detroit obviously will be in the quarterback market. I don't think Jared Goff will be the week 1 starter next season. Tampa Bay, no. Tampa Bay, they got Tom Brady. They're set. New Orleans, well, Jameis Winston blew out his ACL. He did not get to finish this season. So who knows if they believe in him long-term. Taysom Hill is not a guy. Trevor Siemian played okay yesterday, found it in the second half. But I don't believe that Jameis Winston is a lock to return as their starting quarterback next year. So yes. Atlanta. Well, Matt Ryan is 36. He's played 14 years in the league, all for Atlanta. He's still playing good football. I mean, yesterday he had a rushing touchdown. He plays good and bad games. They got the Cowboys next week. I think it'll depend on this season for Atlanta. Could they make the playoffs? Potentially, but I think it truly depends on Matt Ryan's play. Calvin Ridley's not there. Kyle Pitts is an elite tight end. So I'll be interested to see what Atlanta decides to do. I know it'll cost them significantly less to cut him this year and move on than it would have this offseason. Carolina, I'm disappointed in Sam Darnold because I thought Sam, who was under Adam Gase, who just kills quarterbacks, would come to Carolina and have some success under Matt Rule and Joe Brady, but it just hasn't happened. I mean, this says it all. He's got a 71.3 QBR this year. A QBR is based 0 to 100. That's not good. That's the lowest I've seen so far for starting quarterbacks. Jared Goff, if I remember correctly, if I just read them off, Jared Goff has 85 average. That is not good. And he turns the ball over 3 times yesterday. He can't throw touchdown passes. He doesn't look confident. He makes way too many mistakes, just stupid mistakes. And I think Carolina is going to be in the quarterback market because Sam Darnold, he's 4-5. He's not getting them anywhere quickly. And yeah, I would expect that we see Carolina go in an opposite direction. Arizona, Kyler Murray, he's locked in. He's their quarterback. Matt Stafford, locked in, returning to the Rams. Seattle, interesting because I think Russell Wilson may want out of Seattle. They got Green Bay this week, which is a big game. I think he might want out. He's only played for Seattle, but he hasn't been to a Super Bowl in a long time. He wants to be in the discussion for win MVPs, not just be a running attack type football team. Let him be the focus. So do I think Seattle would move on from Russell Wilson? Potentially. It might just be him saying, I'm done here. I want to go somewhere else. I want a new challenge. San Francisco. Absolutely. They're not going to be 500 this year. They're in a tough division. Jimmy Garoppolo is not a great quarterback. They got Trey Lance. So I expect Trey Lance to be the week 1 starter next year. He doesn't look ready at all, but if they continue to lose football games down the stretch here, I believe, Jimmy Garoppolo will be put on the bench. Trey Lance will start the games down the stretch and really meaningless football games. AFC now. AFC East. Buffalo, Josh Allen. Yes, he had a brutal game yesterday. They've locked him in long-term. They believe in him. Josh Allen will be the quarterback of the future for Buffalo. New England, Mac Jones. You bet. Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future. I like him a lot. I think, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Not great. He's throwing a lot of interceptions, but he's getting better. I see the guy getting better week after week. He's got close to a 90 QBR this year on average. That's really good stuff, especially from a rookie quarterback. Jets. They drafted Zach Wilson with the 2nd pick. So I expect to see Zach Wilson, but it's the Jets. You never really know what you're going to get with the Jets. Mike White could be starting. Josh Johnson. Who the hell knows? Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa is done as their quarterback, and he'll be moved on. I still think Deshaun Watson will be the quarterback of the future for Miami. If everything turns out okay for him, I think we'll see Deshaun Watson there. Who knows where Tua will be playing quarterback, but it will not be on South Beach for the Fish. Baltimore. You bet. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. I just said he's the MVP of the league. You're not moving on from him. Pittsburgh. I think it truly depends on how this year finishes out for Ben Roethlisberger. If they can make a push for the playoffs, they've beaten Cleveland already this season. If they can make a push, possibly get into the playoffs, maybe Ben comes back for another year. But if Ben retires, you got Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins on your roster. That's not quarterback play of the future for the team. They're going to be needing to look to the future. Maybe it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. I could see that. Does Sam Darnold get another run potentially in Pittsburgh? So you'll see some quarterback, musical chairs, of course. But Cleveland. I do think Cleveland and Baker will find a contract they like. They got rid of OBJ, clearly siding with Baker Mayfield. No, does he deserve to be paid $40 million a year? No, I wouldn't do that because he's not that good of a quarterback. But I do think that he's better than a lot of alternatives. He gives you a good chance to win week in, week out. And I would side with Baker going forward. Cincinnati, a couple tough losses, but Joe Burrow is the real deal. First overall pick. He's a stud. So Joe Burrow will be there long-term as well. Tennessee, easy. Ryan Tannehill. Too many interceptions for me this year. He's already got 8, but he's good. He's 33. He's still got it. Him and A.J. Brown have a good connection. You bet. Colts, yes. I still think Carson Wentz, he has his flaws, but I do think the Colts can make a push for the playoffs for sure, especially with Jonathan Taylor at running back, one of the best in the NFL. They got Pittman Jr. Him and Pittman have a really strong connection. I do think they'll stick with him. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. First overall pick, you're sticking with that. You want to continue to blossom, continue to grow, and a win against, the Bills can only help Trevor Lawrence this season in doing that. Houston, no, they have no stability at quarterback. Deshaun Watson will be traded at some point this offseason. They'll move on from him. I think they select a quarterback likely in the draft, or if they don't like this year's draft class, maybe they trade their draft capital and hope for the best next season. So 2 seasons of straight tanking. Chargers, Justin Herbert, you bet me, is the quarterback of the future. Vegas, I do think they'll stick with Derek Carr. He's better than any alternative that I've talked about moving so far. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, yes. And Denver is interesting because Teddy Bridgewater isn't a bad quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that's going to push you over the top. So I do think Denver is always a team that's looking for better quarterback play. They've been searching for that since Peyton Manning retired. So, I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. I think Bridgewater's played okay. But, I mean, that's half the league that's going to be looking for quarterbacks. And I'll go through it again. Philly, New York, Washington, 3. Green Bay, potentially, 4. Minnesota, 5. Detroit, 6. New Orleans, 7. I'm not going to include Atlanta yet. Carolina, 8. Seattle, 9. San Francisco, 10. Miami, 11. Pittsburgh, 12. Houston, 14. Denver, 5th. That's 15 of 32 teams that are going to be looking for new quarterbacks. And there's not that, and you know what that means is that teams are going to be picking up guys that have already been places. Like Jimmy Garoppolo will get a starting quarterback job next year because there just isn't that many great quarterbacks. If Ben Roethlisberger retires, it's not a great year for the draft. Guys are going to need to start. Likely, Jimmy Garoppolo will be in the same position as he was this year. He'll be on a team, not San Francisco, but with a team with a rookie quarterback. They say, well, we kind of like this guy, but we need that bridge quarterback. Maybe it's Pittsburgh. Maybe they draft a guy in the second or third round, and then they sign Jimmy Garoppolo to be their starter next year. I could see that happening. Sam Darnold, as bad as he's played, will likely get another run because guys just find a ways to get back. Does Mike White get a look with another team after his impressive play with the Jets? Does he get signed where he can go to a team, compete for a starting job? Who knows? Kirk Cousins, does Minnesota just force to stick with him? I wouldn't love that because, yes, he's efficient, but I'd rather have a guy who's, reckless that provides for me in the biggest moments. Kirk Cousins is efficient as hell. He can move the ball down the field. But when you're at a 4th and 1, you're a half inch from the goal line, Kirk Cousins will find a way to bobble the snap and lose you the game. That's just been his career. Seattle has had Russell Wilson for a decade. Is there a shift? Does he want out? We could see colossal change. And there's still lots of runway this season, but I just think it's so crazy how things will change. The quarterback market is a lot like the goalie market in the NHL, where goalies are shifting more and more. There are 7 teams this year in the NHL that have 2 new goaltenders from what they had last year. 15 teams with at least 1 new goaltender. That's a lot. It's a constant turnover of the position. And like goaltending, quarterback is the most important position in the sport. Do we have something crazy? Does Aaron Rodgers retire? Does something happen? There's only 3 weeks left in the college football season. Does a quarterback jump out and really start to play well? Does a team draft Kenny Pickett from University of Pitt? He balls out. Maybe. He's a big kid, big arm, looks like a prototypical quarterback, but I wouldn't say he's a lock to be a great pro by any means. But that doesn't stop people from giving a guy a look. Looking at other teams that I watch frequently, CJ Stroud's a freshman. He won't be playing. Georgia does not have a quarterback that you'd love. Does De'Aaron King get a look from Miami? Maybe. Desmond Ridder, likely going to be a draft pick from Cincinnati. I don't see him being a ready starter in the NFL, but he's a guy that's got some athleticism. He's got a good arm. Notre Dame, Jack Cohn, don't see it. Michigan State, Thorne, no, not really impressive to me. Oak State with Sanders, no. Auburn, Bo Nix, no. Alabama, Bryce Young's still going to be playing college football next season, so he won't be available. Michigan, definitely not a quarterback school. Oregon, again, a dual threat. So I'm just going through teams here. It's not exactly great play for the quarterbacks. It's not a great time to be, Caleb Williams would really look interesting, but he's still going to be in college. He's a true freshman. So the NFL is going to be shifting. Of course, it's going to be a lot of change, but these teams, a lot of them are going to be in the same position because they're not that good, quite frankly. Matt Corral at Ole Miss. I like the way he plays, but I'm not sold on him being a great pro. But what did we learn this week? Who's good in the AFC? I think Baltimore, and I think the Browns and the Patriots have the potential to really go far. I do. They play each other next week. I'm very much looking forward to that game. NFC, it was a crazy week. Packers lose. Rams lose. Cardinals win with a backup quarterback. And the Dallas Cowboys get rocked at home. It was just a week where every good team seemed to be drunk, and the teams that normally lose these games had a designated driver. So we'll see what happens here down the stretch. Thanks for tuning in today. I apologize for the barking. Dirk has been a little irritated today, so we'll see to try to fix that going forward. But be back with a couple of podcasts tomorrow. I'll talk with Seamus, talk with Casey, Matt Wright throughout the week. Enjoy the games this evening. Steelers, Bears on Monday Night Football, and I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow. We'll talk then.